guys so much for coming. I know you probably all just started school, right? Like a week ago. So you're probably excited to get another lecture in your day. Yeah? No? Oh, you're okay. So like Josh said, I work for Herbalife Corporate in Los Angeles. My role is to work with all of our sponsored teams and athletes around the world. So as a company, we're in 94 countries, and we have over 250 sponsored athletes. We had 80 plus athletes that just finished competing in Rio. And probably our most well-known athlete that you guys would be familiar with is Ronaldo. So with all of our sponsorships, no matter whether it's Ronaldo or it's a local club, our goal is to have a partnership and a relationship that's real, right? We don't want you guys to just wear our name on your jersey and then be like, I don't even know who these people are. Like, they're not doing anything, they just give us money, whatever, okay? That's not our goal. Our goal is to be able to help you guys improve your performance through nutrition. So, sorry, I have to walk back and forth to do this, but. All right, so like I said, I'm in charge of all our athletes. These are just a couple of snapshots from around the world. So this is a soccer football club in Brazil. These are some of our Colombian athletes, Team Ecuador, Mexico City. So we're everywhere, which is really cool because a lot of our athletes will travel around the world and they'll meet other players. So we're taking, a team from LA out to Germany and getting the players to really work together. So it's fun to be able to sit and talk to each player and talk to each athlete and basically say, what are your goals? How can we help you, right? And it's not just about take this, this, and this, but it's about, okay, what are you doing in your day? What does it look like? And how can we use nutrition to help you improve your performance, right? Because how many of you guys think there's an aspect of your game that you can improve on? Tired? Let everyone else see. Raise your hand tired. There we go. Okay, everybody, right? Everyone feels like there's some part of their game that they can improve on, right? How many of you guys think that nutrition can help you with one of those goals? That's probably the right answer if I'm asking the question. But that's the truth, right? So nutrition is part of sport that's been neglected, right? It's something that we don't really think about. So like I said, I work with all levels of athletes. So we're starting up with a group of guys every year that train for the NFL Combine. These guys come out of the top colleges in the country and they don't know the first thing about nutrition, right? And then all of a sudden they spend 5 to 8 weeks eating right, hydrating, and all of a sudden they realize, wow, I can really take my game to this next level just by thinking about what I eat, thinking about what I drink, thinking about how I sleep, and making sure that I treat my body right, and that becomes part of practice, right? So I want you guys to think about what you drink before you go out on the field. That's part of your warm-up, okay? What you have when you get off the field, that's part of your cool-down, right? So we all know a warm-up is important for the body. We know a cool-down is important for the body. We know being focused on the field is important for our game, but we don't think that every step along the way, nutrition can play a part in that. Okay, so I don't want to give you too much information or make it too sciencey or too boring, because I know you guys have to go to practice after this, right? Okay, so I want to make it kind of quick, and if you guys have questions along the way, please raise your hand, yell, ask me, because I don't want you to leave thinking like, oh, I wish I had asked her that or whatever. So please just interrupt me at any point if you have any questions. But how many of you guys get nutrition class in school? Okay. Nobody gets nutrition in school anymore. I mean, even my friends that are going through med school right now, they don't get nutrition either. So it's something, like I said, that we don't think about. I can't tell you the number of athletes that I work with that have been superstars on their team, famous superstars, right? They're like, oh, well, I got this far without eating right or being hydrated, so I'm fine. And then all of a sudden, they get injured. Or they see the end of their contract coming, and they're thinking like, oh, what can I do differently? But if they had started thinking about how do I treat my body right from your age, then maybe that conversation of the end of the career or the end of the contract or that injury maybe somewhere much farther along the road, because most people don't think about it when they're your age, right? So hopefully you guys can take a couple of snapshots from this and apply this into your day to help you guys perform better. So, does that sound good? You guys open to that? All right, so what I want to do is I want to break down the macronutrients that we eat and how they can help you perform better, okay? So you guys are all familiar with the carbohydrate, yeah? Where do you find carbs?
Food.
Fruit?
Pasta.
Fruit, pasta.
I said bread.
Bread. What did you say? Fruit, pasta, bread. That it? Okay. So we can find carbohydrates in most foods, right? So like you guys said, pastas, breads, there's carbohydrates in milk, cheeses, chocolates, candies, things like that, fruits, vegetables. You're gonna have carbohydrates in all of those food groups, right? So how many of you guys have heard that carbohydrates are bad for you? Or carbohydrates are gonna make you fat? A lot of head nodding, okay. So that's a common thing that you hear, right? Is I'm gonna stay away from carbs because they're not good for me. But the reality is your body needs carbohydrates. Okay, your body needs carbohydrates to run on. So basically, we have a gas tank in the body, and carbohydrates are what really help fill up that gas tank. How many of you guys drive? Would you start your car on an empty gas tank? No, it's not gonna run, right? So it's the same thing with our body and carbohydrates. So before you go out on the field, you need to make sure that you have adequate amount of carbohydrates in your body so your body has the gas and the energy to be able to make it through practice. Okay, so the role of carbohydrates, it's the fuel for our body. And I'll show you a couple of slides in a minute about when our body really uses carbohydrates. But they help provide us fiber, which keeps our insides healthy and cleaned out. They can help keep us full, okay? Not as much as protein, but they can help keep you full throughout the day. Now, there's a couple different types of carbohydrates. So people say, okay, well, I should eat carbs before I work out. But the reality is that not all carbohydrates are equal. Okay, do you guys think that eating an apple and eating a piece of chocolate is going to have the same effect in your body? No, okay? So they both have carbohydrates, but they're going to act differently. And there's going to be different times when one might be preferred over another, okay? Or a piece of bread that has a lot of fiber in it versus some candy or ice cream or something like that, okay? And the way we differentiate these are complex carbs and simple carbs. Okay, is that a term that's familiar? Okay. So what complex carbs are, like the name would suggest, they're more complicated. There's a lot more to them. Okay, so they have fiber, they have vitamins, they have minerals, they have a lot more to them, which means it takes a lot more work for the body to break them down. Okay, so ultimately everything we put into our body is going to break down and try and get some sort of use out of it. Okay, and from the carbohydrates, we're going to get this rise in the sugar in our blood, which is going to be that gas for your gas tank. Okay, but with complex carbs, it's not going to happen very fast. Okay, so if you are heading out to go play, you've got 10 minutes before practice starts, you need some energy, do you think having complex carb would be a good idea? Probably not the best time for it, okay, because it's going to take longer for your body to digest it and get energy from it, okay? Before practice, you want something that's going to give you energy very quickly. Okay? So that's where simple carbohydrates come in, okay? So people will say, well, have a banana before practice, right? Have a piece of fruit before practice. The reason for that is that these are simple carbohydrates, okay? They're going to be absorbed really quickly in your body, and your body's going to be able to use it, okay? So you're much better off having a simple carb right before you go out to play than you are a complex carb, because your body's going to be able to use it quickly, okay? And so when we're talking about nutrition for athletes, we really want to talk about how your body's going to get the best use out of the food that you're putting in it, okay? So like there's a purpose, your coaches put together a plan for every single practice that has a purpose. Same thing with food when it comes to eating for performance, right? You want to put the food in your body that's going to help you maximize your performance, okay? So things that are simple carbohydrates are going to be a good choice for you before you go out to play. So that can come in the form of a sports drink, okay? So that has carbohydrates in it. Or you could do a piece of fruit. Something like that would be good choices before a game, okay? How many of you guys have a snack within 30 minutes before you practice? Couple people. Okay. How many of you guys have a sports drink before you practice? Okay. So that might be something to try, right? So instead of a lot of times we wait and we're like, okay, halftime I'm going to have a sports drink or I'm going to have an orange, right? But having it before practice as well can really help maximize the beginning of that practice, okay? Not just waiting till you get to halftime. And again, I apologize for the sciencey graphs, but basically this is what we were just talking about, is the blood sugar, okay? When your blood sugar goes up, you want that before you practice, okay? You don't want that while you're sitting on the couch doing nothing, okay? That's when carbohydrates become a problem, is when people have these simple carbohydrates and their blood sugar goes up and they're not expending any energy. Okay, so that's when you start getting into problems like diabetes and things like that way down the road, is by having these things when your body's not going to use them. But for you guys that are out, you're exercising, your body's going to use that energy. Okay, so before you work out, before you go out in the field, give it a shot. Try 15-20 minutes beforehand. Have some sort of sports drink. Have some fruit, something like that. Your body will use it. Okay, your body's not going to store it because it's going to be right there. It's going to be easily accessible for you to have energy at the beginning of practice. How many of you guys practice right after school? What about before school? Everyone's after school? Okay. You sometimes feel like tired after school, you're dragging, you've sat in the classroom all day, it's hard to get up and go to practice? Yeah, okay. So give some carbohydrates a shot beforehand. I think that might help you kind of wake yourself up a little bit before practice, okay? Because what this is showing you is that if you look at this graph, this is how hard your workout is, okay? So how many of you guys do sprints during practice? Yeah, everybody. So when you sprint, you're working at a super high intensity, okay? When you're working that hard, your body's only using carbohydrates, okay? So if you don't give yourself gas to be able to use, it's going to be much more difficult to be able to do those sprints as fast as you possibly can, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so for practice, fruit, sports drink, something like that. And a lot of people say, why? Well, don't I store that in my body? Don't I have a lot of gas in the tank all the time? And the reality is no. Okay, so this is an example. Sorry, I was just in Europe, so I was using football instead of soccer. But basically what this is a picture of somebody's muscle fiber. Okay, so if it's all white, it means it's full of gas. Okay, now if you don't have any carbohydrates, when you get to the end of the game, your muscle fibers are almost completely empty of gas. Okay, so a lot of times games can be decided in the last 5 to 10, 2 minutes, 1 minute of a game, right? Penalty kicks, the end of a game. If you don't have enough gas in the tank left, literally, it's going to be much more difficult to perform at that level, right? And you want to be the team that can get to the ball faster in that last 5 minutes, right? So things like carbohydrates will help you be able to do that. So it's going to put that gas in the tank for you for that whole practice. Okay. Questions? Ben's asleep already. All right. So That's carbohydrates. Hopefully you guys realize that they're very important and that there's a purpose for them and that your body can use them, especially before a workout, okay? Fats, we won't spend much time on this, but again, a lot of people hear the word fat and they think it's something I need to cut out of my diet, something that I need to avoid. And I think for you guys now, for when you get to college, for later in life, a lot of people will try and go on these diets where they say, I'm doing no carbs or I'm completely getting rid of fats. It just doesn't make sense, okay? There's a purpose for every single one of these nutrients in our diet. So we need carbohydrates, we need fats, okay? So fats are gonna give us energy. We store a lot of fat in our body. We can get energy from that, not as easily as we can from carbohydrates, but you need some with every meal. Okay. Typically, you want to have what we call healthy fats, so whether that's from avocado or fish, nuts, things like that. Those are good sources of healthy fats and not from the greasy, fat, fried type stuff. Okay. Now, for you guys when you're out playing, how long is the game? So, when you're running, your body doesn't want to always use carbohydrates, okay? Because just like in the graph I just showed you, you don't store very much, okay? If you go 2 hours without consuming carbohydrates while you're exercising, you'll be empty, okay? The gas tanks will be empty. So your body wants to use fat as well. So when you're kind of more in that steady state, or maybe you guys are going for, a 5K run or something like that at practice, and you're doing it at a steady, consistent pace, your body's going to use fats. Okay, so you want to make sure that with every meal that you have, you get some good, healthy fats. Okay, the one time I would say try and avoid having fats. Can you guys guess when that might be? Do you want to have a lot of fats right before practice? No. Okay, so they're slower digesting. It could cause stomach upset and things like that. So before practice, just stick to your simple carbohydrates. Don't worry about adding fats or anything like that at that point. Okay. This graph is basically just the opposite of what I showed you. So the longer your workout, the more your body uses fats, okay? But only when it's a steady state, just no sprints, no running after the ball, nothing like that, just steady state type workout. So there's a purpose for both, but you have to make sure that when you're exercising, you don't need to provide your body with fat, okay? You store plenty of it, but you don't store the carbohydrates. Questions about fats? Okay. I want to spend a little bit more time on protein because I think it's something that often, especially as females, we don't necessarily get enough of. I know I was a high school coach for 8 some odd years, and this is something that my athletes struggled with all the time, was making sure that they got adequate protein at the right time. Okay, there was a lot of myths of like, if I eat too much protein, it's going to give me like big muscles, it's not going to help me, I'm not going to like it, I don't want to look too muscular, so I'm not going to eat protein. Lots of things like that that I heard commonly. So the thing is that you have to have protein to help not just build muscle, but change body composition, right? So to be a better player, you need to be able to be stronger, okay? So if you're not consuming your protein, it's going to be very hard for you to build muscle, and ultimately that's going to affect your sprint speed, your endurance, your strength, all of that, okay? And the reason is that protein is basically the building blocks for your body, okay? So we talk about protein all day long. We need protein, we need protein, we need protein. But what we really need are what are called amino acids, okay? And those are the building blocks of protein, okay? There's some that our body can make, and then there's some that we have to consume through food, okay? And it's so important because we need to not just build and maintain muscles, but we have to, if you don't have enough protein, you'll see it in someone's hair, their nails, their skin won't be as nice. And it really can help keep you full, okay? So I know, how many of you guys are allowed to eat in class? You're lucky, okay. Most high school students I have, they can't eat in class. So what they do is they have some sort of protein bar or protein snack in between classes, and that will help keep them fuller for a longer period of time, okay? But protein, it's gonna be important not just for playing now. I know it's very difficult for, to think when you're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. But what we see a lot of times, especially with females, is that we don't get enough protein, we don't build enough muscle, we don't build enough peak muscle mass and peak bone mass at your age when it's so crucial. And then when you're older, your bones become brittle, you're more susceptible to fractures, falls, things like that. And I know it's really difficult to think about what you do now could affect then, but it really is the case, right? And that's the case with everything that we're talking about. It's not just, I want you to have carbohydrates so today's practice will be better, but it's about tomorrow's practice, and it's about keeping your body healthy for a year from now, 5 years from now. How many of you guys want to play in college? Everybody, okay? So if you're a freshman, the end of your college career is going to be 8 years from now, right? Something like that, okay? That's a long time to keep your body going at an elite level. So you've got to give it the fuel every single day and protect it so that day in and day out, your body can really recover and rebuild itself, and a big part of that is going to come from protein, okay? Soccer seasons are long, okay? We had the same thing in college. I was on the crew team, and we had a fall season and we had a spring season. Most of our girls didn't make it all 4 years in college because they were injured or they were worn out. And I just think if we had known then what we know now about nutrition, how much better could we have been? How many injuries could we have prevented? How many careers could we have kept going a little bit longer? So it's so important to start making these things a habit now, because then you won't even have to think about it, right? It's like what I said earlier, it becomes part of the warm-up. So a hydration drink becomes part of your warm-up. And then we'll talk in a second about protein being part of that cool down and why it's so important post-workout to have protein. Okay. So, like I said, amino acids, some our body can make, some our body cannot make. Okay, so when we talk about protein and we talk about the type of protein to eat after a workout, again, not all protein types are going to be created equal. Okay, you want to make sure that when you have protein after a workout, it has what we call the essential amino acids. Okay, the amino acids that your body cannot make on its own. Okay, and that's going to come from either a dairy protein or a soy protein. Okay, you can have a combination of plants that will get you all 9, but you can get 9 from either dairy or soy. Okay. Now, we talked about carbohydrates and fat as being used for energy, right? A lot of times people will say, I'm going to have this protein bar because it's going to give me energy. Okay, I hear it all the time. It's not that that's completely wrong. It's just that that's not what the body's going to use protein for. Okay, so like I said a few slides ago, the protein is really going to be the building blocks of your muscles. Okay, so let it do what it's best at, which is going to help your body recover. Okay, so every time you guys go out in the field, do you think, what happens to your body during that workout? Do you think you leave a workout and your body is in just as good of shape as before the workout? Or do you think you do damage to your body during the workout? You do damage, okay? So we talk and talk and talk about how amazing exercise is for us, but the reality is that exercise is very demanding on the body, okay? Every time you finish a workout, you've broken down your muscle fibers, you've dehydrated yourself, you've done a lot of damage. So if you don't give yourself protein after a workout, you've now just spent 2.5 hours breaking down your body and not giving it the best chance to recover, okay? So within 30 minutes of finishing your workout, you want to have some sort of protein in your body, okay? Whether it's from a protein shake or a protein bar, or you can get home and have a meal that has good quality protein in it, you want to make sure that you supply your body with some amino acids to help build that new muscle, okay? You're gonna break down muscle, it's part of the process. We need that to happen to be able to build muscle. You can't build it if you don't break it down, which is how the body works. But you can help yourself in that building process, right? By giving yourself protein, that's gonna help you day in and day out build the muscle so that your body can continue to not take as long to recover, okay? So typically what we want is, after a workout, 20 to 40 grams of protein, okay? We know that that's gonna be the best to help stimulate your body's ability to build muscle, okay? And when I say build muscle, I'm not talking about bodybuilder, big muscle, right? I'm talking about lean muscle mass, okay? The body composition where you look strong, okay? We're not talking about bodybuilding competitions or anything like that. We're just simply talking about strong, toned muscle. That's not gonna happen if you don't have protein after your workout, okay? If you don't have protein, it's gonna be very difficult for you to build any sort of muscle mass, and then that's ultimately gonna impact your performance, okay? So 20 to 40 grams, if you have like a protein bar or a protein shake, that's always a good way to go, just because it's gonna tell you how many grams of protein are on the back, okay? All right, I know this looks really complicated, but we're gonna make it simple. So the reason that a lot of athletes like having a dairy protein after your workout is for what's explained on this graph, okay? There's two parts to dairy protein. So some people say, well, should I have protein from plants, or should I have it from dairy, or should I have it from meat? And oftentimes with all the athletes we work with, we like dairy protein. That's not to say that plant protein doesn't work or isn't beneficial, but basically dairy protein has two components to it. One that acts really quickly and helps you with that immediate recovery, okay? And the other part, it takes your body a longer time to digest, so it helps you recover for a few hours after exercise, okay? Because once you get off the field, your body isn't just back to its normal state right away. How many grams of protein after a workout? 20 to 40. And how fast after a workout do you want to try and get that in? 30 minutes, okay? Good. So the reason for that is the body's working at a higher rate, and you're going to get the most out of that protein to really help you recover if you kind of fit it into that 30 to 45 minute window, okay? That's not to say that if you forget a protein shake or you forget a protein bar, that if you go home and it's been an hour, that nothing is going to help you. That's not the case at all. It's just the maximum benefit is going to come 30 some odd minutes after a workout. Okay. So, last topic here, maybe one of the most important ones. Hydration, okay? How many cups of water do you guys typically drink a day?
A lot.
A lot, good. How many do you want to try and shoot for? About 8. 8 to 10, 6 to 8 depending on your size. But the reality is that most of our body weight is going to come from water, okay? And when you're sweating, when you're running, when you're working out, you're losing water and you're losing electrolytes, okay? And when you do that, it's going to impact your performance, okay? So water is crucial for digestion, for our joints. So a lot of times you're pounding on your knees and your ankles day in and day out, right? If you don't have enough water to help lubricate your joints, it's going to be very difficult for you to keep running the way that you do every day. But it's important that you guys focus on good, healthy beverages, okay? Because this is where we can go way off in what we eat. A lot of times I work with people and they're like, I want to lose this much weight. And these are, older adults that I'm working with. They say, I want to lose this much weight. We go through everything that they're eating. It's like, okay, that looks good, that looks good, that looks good. But what they leave out is what they're drinking, okay? So they might say, okay, well, I'm doing all this right, but I have a mocha and 2 Cokes during the day. That's 1,000 extra calories of stuff that's not going to do anything for you, okay? So what we talked about at the beginning, when it comes to sports nutrition, you want to do what's best for your body and what's going to get you the most bang for your buck, right? So whatever you put in, you want to get some benefit from it, okay? So things like soda and, you know, fruity or very sweet coffee drinks, they might taste good, but they're adding a lot of calories that don't have a lot of benefit for you necessarily, okay? So it's just something to consider throughout the day, just paying attention to making sure you're getting enough fluid, but that you're getting the right type of fluid and the fluid that's going to be able to help you. Because what we know is that when you're dehydrated, you're going to run slower, okay? So if you take your normal,
So, like, I know a lot of people who drink water and they, like, infuse it with fruits and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
So the fruit's going to give you that simple sugar that we talked about beforehand. If you're just sitting around all day, there's no need really. Just plain water is fine, but if you want to do that before practice or during practice, that's great. Yeah, that'll help you for sure. Yeah. And that's usually a better choice, honestly, than a lot of the like overly sweetened sports drinks and things like that. So it's actually a really good option. And I know they have those water bottles now where you can like put fruit in the middle and then it just like seeps into your water during the day. So that's kind of a good option if you like that. But what we know about hydration is that, say you guys are sitting here like perfectly hydrated, right? You've done a great job. You've had 8 cups of water today. You've just had some sort of beverage with carbohydrates, so you're gonna go out and practice. So you're good, okay? If you just were 2% less than perfect, that can impact you out on the field, okay? Do you think you can feel being 2% dehydrated? You can't. And that's the thing, that's where dehydration can really start to impact your performance, is that just being a little bit dehydrated is gonna impact your speed on the field, okay? So if you look at this, the black is someone that's hydrated, the white is someone that's dehydrated. With every lap they run, the person that's dehydrated gets substantially slower every single time at a much faster rate than that person that's hydrated, okay? So it goes back to what we were talking about with the carbohydrates. The last 5 minutes of the game, you want to be that person that can beat the other team to the ball, right? That's going to come from adequate carbohydrates, and it's going to come from adequate hydration. Okay, those 2 things are going to be key for you guys to be able to maximize your play on the field. Okay, so that's really going to help you during, and then protein's what's going to help you afterwards. Okay, so I know nutrition can be complicated, it can be overwhelming, but I think if you just start with a few things, you're going to notice the difference and you're going to feel it in your body. And the end of the season, the end of next season, your body's really going to thank you for fueling it properly and then helping it recover properly by giving it protein. Okay? Any questions?